Chapter 4. We already used many of these terms, right? We talked about octave, and I think let's look at the keyboard here. All right, now this is the picture of a keyboard, right? You're used to seeing a keyboard that has black keys and white keys. And did you notice that it's actually 2 black keys and 3 black keys is the pattern that's the whole keyboard: 2 blacks, 3 blacks, 2 blacks, 3 blacks. And anytime you find 2 black keys and you go to the white key, right next to the left of the 2 black keys is C. And then, so all of the notes here, from one note to the next note, we would say the interval is a half step. And so from this black key to this white key is a half step up, and you're going this way, it's a half step down. So from C to D is a half step and another half step, so it's a whole step. And so between the letters C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, you see there are 2 places where there is no black key, and so that's a half step between E and F and B and C. And as it turns out, this is the formula for a major scale. You have a whole step, then a half step from E to F, then a whole step, and a half step. So any major scale, if you use that formula of intervals, it will have the same quality. So if I start on E, it has that order of whole steps and half steps. The same order, even though I started in a different place, I use the same formula, and it has the same quality of sound. And if I played every single note, we would call that a chromatic scale, right? So if I played the white key, the black key, the white key, the black key, and on the guitar, there's no colors. But on the piano, we have it's very visual, right? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and the 13th is an octave. So there actually are 12 different notes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The 13th has the same name. And if when we go up, we call the black key a sharp from the next lower key, right? D sharp is a half step higher than D. F sharp is a half step higher than F. But when we go down, we use the name of the upper note and then flat it. So B flat is a half step lower than B, right? A flat. So that same key has 2 different names. Whether you're going up, we would call it G sharp. When we're going down, we call it A flat. So here it shows you the notes going up, they're sharps, and they're coming down, they're flats. So an active, so we call that a chromatic scale when we play every single note, right? Chromatic. So half steps, whole steps, right? And the octave is that to the same named note, 12 half steps, right? 13th half step is the same, or in a major scale, which is a combination of whole steps and half steps. So a minor scale has a different formula in the order of whole steps. Very distinctive sound compared to the major scale. Minor scale. So sharps, flats, this number sign, right, is a sharp. This distorted note shape is a flat. Microtones would be tones that would be in between the sharps and flats. So in some non-Western music, you have those notes in between. Even in blues music, we have uh, we bend the notes, right? So we're actually going in between two notes, and we would call that a microtone. And so when we use that, remember we said that the note of the scale, the name of that scale is the tonic note because it's the tonal center, and uh, every chord that we have has a name on it. So well, so the key is the name of the scale, right? So if it's in the key of C, the scale would be C. If it's in the key of G, the scale would be G. And if we start out in the key of C and then we end up in the key of G, we would say that we have modulated. And the composer will do that sometimes gracefully, sometimes in an abrupt way. And so sometimes it changes. We don't even realize that they've modulated. A transposition is when you take one song or one piece of music and you do it in a completely different key. So let's say it's supposed to be in the key of E, and you do everything and shift it up to F, it would be transposed from E to F. So the letter we use A through G, and this picture of the piano is very, very helpful. So the major scale, right, has this formula, and then the minor scale has this formula. And they're saying it's darker. Well, this is subjective. Uh, Whether you perceive a minor scale as darker or sadder or a major scale as cheerful, triumphant, that's debatable. And there's a name that's given to every member of the scale. And in our Western music, we have, so I could build a chord on every scale, right? Then we said if you play in skip, right, and then that's a triad, but I could also play a triad from the second member of the scale, right? And then the third member, fourth, the fifth, the sixth. So each chord has a different name. We call the chord on the first, we call it the tonic, right? And then on the fourth we call it the subdominant. The fifth member of the scale is the dominant, and this is the primary chords. So many songs, hundreds, thousands of music songs have been written using the primary chords, the one chord, the four chord, the five. There are other kinds of scales. The pentatonic scale is uses the first, the second, the third, the fifth, and the sixth. And a lot of non-Western music uses those fine scales, the pentatonic scale. Kids' songs like da 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 dee da da is a pentatonic scale. And I said the prime microtones are those notes in between the half steps. Again, the three main chords are the one chord, the chord that's based on the first note of the scale, the fourth note, and the fifth note. Modulation is when we shift to a different key during the composition. And sometimes it's an abrupt shift,
to make an impact, and most of the time it's gradual, so we call it a modulation, and you barely even know that it's gone to a new key. Transposition is when you take that song and you move it to a different starting place and play it again. I think I already said that. Okay, that's the end of chapter 4.